The sky above the valley was painted in strange colors after the long war. The air still carried the faint smell of smoke and iron. The great armies of the stars had clashed here, leaving broken ships and lost dreams behind. Among the ruins, a small human patrol moved carefully, searching for any survivors or hidden dangers. One of the soldiers was named Ryan. He was quiet and focused, a man who had seen too much war for his age. His uniform was torn in places and his helmet had scratches that told stories of near misses. Yet his eyes were calm and steady. He believed that peace could still be found, even among enemies. As Ryan walked through the broken metal of an alien ship, he heard a faint sound. It was soft, almost like a cry. He turned his head and listened again. The sound came from behind a large piece of wreckage. His heart began to beat faster. It could be an enemy or maybe a wounded civilian. He slowly raised his weapon and moved closer. When he pushed the wreckage aside, he froze. There, sitting on the ground, was a young woman unlike any he had seen before. Her skin had a gentle silver glow and her long hair shimmered like starlight. She wore a torn royal robe, marked with strange symbols that looked important. Her eyes were bright violet, filled with fear and pride. Ryan lowered his weapon slightly, trying not to scare her. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you." The alien girl looked at him with wide eyes. Her breathing was fast and her hands trembled as she tried to stand. Her voice, though shaky, carried a calm tone. "Stay where you are, human," she said. "I am Princess Alara of the Virene Empire." Ryan blinked in surprise. He had heard of the Virene before. They were powerful and proud, their technology far beyond human design. The idea that a Virene princess was sitting here alone and wounded was something he could hardly believe. "You're hurt," he said carefully. "Let me help you." "I need no help from your kind," she answered quickly, though her voice lacked strength. She tried to stand tall, but her leg gave way and she fell to her knees. Ryan dropped his weapon and stepped forward. "Easy," he said. "You won't survive out here alone." "The battlefield isn't safe." Princess Alara looked around. The once mighty ship of her people was now a ruin. Her guards were gone, her kingdom far away. She knew that if she stayed here, she might not live long. But accepting help from a human soldier felt like breaking every rule of her royal training. Ryan removed his helmet and placed it on the ground to show he meant no harm. His face was tired but kind. "You can trust me," he said. "At least for now." There was a long silence. The wind moved through the wreckage, carrying the echo of old battles. Alara studied the human's face. He was not like the soldiers she had seen before, shouting orders and firing weapons. His eyes were calm and his voice was steady. Slowly she nodded. "Very well, human," she said at last. "You may assist me." Ryan smiled a little and reached for a small medical kit from his belt. He knelt beside her and started cleaning a cut on her arm. She flinched at first, but then let him continue. "You fight differently than we do," she said quietly. Ryan gave a small laugh. "We try to survive. That's how humans fight." Her eyes softened. "You do not fear me?" "I've seen fear," he said. "You don't look like something to fear." Alara felt a strange warmth in her chest. She had been trained to see humans as lesser beings, wild and emotional, but this one was calm and respectful. He treated her not as an enemy or a trophy, but as a person. After a while, Ryan finished tending to her wound. He helped her sit against a piece of metal for support. The silence between them was no longer heavy. "Why are you here?" he asked. "My ship was struck during retreat," she replied. "I was separated from my escort. I do not know if my people will return for me." Ryan looked toward the sky. The stars were beginning to appear. "Then I'll make sure you stay alive until they do." Alara tilted her head. "Why would you do that for an enemy princess?" "Because," he said simply, "you're not my enemy right now. You're just someone who needs help." She wanted to argue, but the words would not come. She only looked at him quietly, her pride slowly giving way to a small sense of respect. Night began to fall. Ryan built a small fire using broken ship parts and dry debris. Alara watched him work. She had never seen someone so skilled with so little. Her people used advanced tools and machines, but this human used his hands and mind to survive. It was both strange and impressive. As the fire burned softly, Ryan offered her some ration food. She hesitated, but then accepted. The taste was strange to her, but she ate in silence. "Your world must be very different," Ryan said. "It is," she replied. "We live in cities of light that float above the clouds. We have no hunger and no fear. She looked at the fire. At least that is what I was told. Ryan looked into the flames. Maybe fear isn't always bad. It reminds us to protect what we care about. Her eyes lifted to meet his. For a moment, they both sat quietly, two beings from different worlds sharing warmth and silence in the ruins of war. When the wind howled again, Alara pulled her cloak tighter. Ryan noticed and handed her his jacket. "You'll freeze without it?" he said. She hesitated but accepted. The fabric felt heavy and warm. "Thank you, human soldier." "Ryan," he corrected gently. "My name is Ryan." "Ryan," she repeated softly. "I will remember that." The stars shone brighter above them. The war for a brief moment felt far away. Both of them knew that when dawn came, the world might change again. But for now, there was peace in this small corner of the battlefield. And as the night deepened, Princess Alara of the Vereen Empire tried to stay calm, sitting beside the one being she had been taught to fear the most, a human soldier who had shown her kindness. Morning light broke over the valley. The sky was pale gold, and the broken ships looked quiet for the first time since the war had ended. Ryan woke up early, brushing off dust from his uniform. He looked at Princess Alara, who was still asleep beside the small fire that had now burned out. Her silver skin shimmered in the weak sunlight. She looked peaceful, almost fragile, though he knew she carried the strength of a ruler. Ryan checked his radio, but it was dead. There was no signal, no voice, no command. He sighed and looked toward the hills in the distance. If they wanted to survive, they would have to move. Supplies were running low, and the battlefield would soon be searched again, maybe by scavengers or enemy drones. When Alara opened her eyes, she found Ryan standing nearby, scanning the horizon. Her legs still hurt, but it was better than before. She sat up slowly and brushed off the dust from her robe. "You wake early," she said softly. Ryan smiled a little. Old habit. Soldiers never sleep too long. She looked around at the endless wreckage. "It looks like a graveyard." "It is," he said. "But we can't stay here. We need to find shelter and food." "Can you walk?" She tried to stand, leaning on a piece of metal. Her legs shook, but she managed. "I will not slow you down, human." "Ryan," he reminded gently. "Ryan," she repeated with a small nod. They began walking together through the field of broken machines. The ground was uneven, covered in metal and glass. Alara walked carefully, trying to keep her balance. Ryan stayed close, ready to catch her if she stumbled. After a while, she asked, "Where do you plan to go?" "There's an old station about 10 kilometers north," he said. "It was used for transport before the war. If it's still standing, we can rest there." She nodded and kept walking. The sun climbed higher and the heat made the air shimmer. Ryan gave her some water from his canteen. She accepted it silently, her pride slowly bending to the reality of survival. As they walked, Alara studied the human soldier beside her. His steps were steady, his eyes alert. He carried his weapon carefully, but his expression was calm. She wondered how someone could stay so composed after all he had seen. "Your kind is strange," she said after some time. Ryan looked at her, curious. "How so?" "You destroy, yet you protect. You fight, yet you care." "You are not what I was taught," Ryan smiled faintly. "Humans are complicated. We make mistakes, but we try to do what's right. Most of the time," she thought about his words, her people always saw humans as reckless and emotional, but Ryan seemed balanced and patient. Maybe the stories told to her were not all true. Around midday, they stopped under the shadow of a half-buried alien ship. Ryan shared some ration bars with her. She looked at the small piece of food and frowned. "This is what you eat?" He laughed softly. "It's not a royal meal, but it keeps you alive." She took a bite and tried not to show her surprise. It tasted dry, but somehow filling. "Strange taste," she said. "Better than nothing," he replied with a grin. They rested for a short time before continuing. As they moved through the valley, they began to hear faint sounds. Small engines, distant metal clanks. Ryan stopped and held up his hand. "Stay quiet," he whispered. Alara froze, her eyes scanning the horizon. A few seconds later, small hover drones appeared in the distance. Their glowing sensors scanned the wreckage as they moved slowly toward the crash site. Ryan pulled Alara behind a large piece of armor plating. "Recon drones," he said. "If they spot us, more will come." "Are they human machines?" she asked. He shook his head. "No, they're Virene scouts." Her eyes widened. "Then they are mine. They will help me. Ryan looked serious. No, they won't. Those are war drones. They don't care who you are. If they detect movement, they attack automatically. Alara looked shocked. You mean they would fire even on their own kind? They're built to win, not to think, Ryan said. They stayed hidden as the drones passed overhead. The sound of their engines made Alara's heart race, but Ryan stayed perfectly still. He waited until the drones disappeared beyond the hills before lowering his weapon. That was close, he said quietly. Alara took a deep breath. You saved me again, Ryan smiled lightly. We're a team now, remember? She hesitated, then nodded. Yes, I suppose we are. They continued walking until evening. The ground began to rise, and they could see the faint shape of the old transport station in the distance. It looked half broken, but part of the roof was still standing. Smoke rose faintly from one corner, which meant someone or something might already be there. Ryan stopped to study it through his binoculars. Looks like someone beat us to it, he said. Alara frowned. Friend or foe? Hard to tell, he said. We'll find out soon. They approached carefully. When they reached the edge of the station, they saw two small fires burning near the entrance. Old crates were piled up and a few scavengers were sitting around. They were humans dressed in rough clothes carrying tools and old weapons. Ryan whispered, They're not soldiers, just scavengers. But we need to be careful. Some of them don't trust anyone. Alara watched them silently. They look tired, she said softly. War changes everyone, Ryan replied. They waited until the scavengers went inside before moving to the back of the building. Ryan found a broken window and helped Alara climb through. Inside, the place smelled of oil and dust. There were old machines, empty shelves, and a few working lights. This will do, Ryan said. We can stay here for the night. Alara sat down against a wall, rubbing her injured leg. It is strange, she said. To hide like this, to run, to fear. I was a princess once, Ryan looked at her kindly. You still are. A title doesn't disappear just because times are hard. She looked at him, her violet eyes soft. You speak as if you understand. I do, he said. I lost everything once too. They sat in silence for a while, the soft hum of old machines filling the air. Outside, the night began to fall again, bringing with it a quiet peace. As the stars appeared through the broken roof, Alara felt something new inside her. It was not fear or pride, it was hope. She looked at Ryan and said, You humans have a strange strength. He smiled. Maybe we just keep going no matter what. She nodded slowly. Then I will learn that from you. The fire outside faded and the scavengers' voices grew distant. Ryan checked his weapon one last time, then leaned against the wall. Get some rest, he said. Tomorrow we move again. Alara watched him close his eyes, his face calm even in the shadow of danger. She whispered to herself, Perhaps peace begins with small steps. And as the night wrapped around the old station, the alien princess felt safe for the first time, not because of her crown, but because of the human soldier who refused to give up. The sun rose again, and soft light entered through the cracks of the old station. Ryan woke up first, his training making him alert even after little rest. He looked around carefully before standing up. Alara was still asleep, her silver hair spread across the floor like a glowing thread. For a brief moment, the war outside felt far away. He walked quietly to the doorway and checked the surroundings. The scavengers who had camped nearby were gone. Only ashes from their small fires remained. Ryan felt relieved. They could move freely now. A sudden beeping sound caught his attention. It came from one of the old communication panels inside the room. He brushed off the dust and checked the small screen. The signal was weak, but it was real. Someone out there was trying to connect. Alara, he called gently. Wake up, we might have a signal. She opened her eyes and sat up quickly. A signal? From who? I don't know yet, he said. Could be human command, could be Vereen. We'll find out. He adjusted the old controls and tried to clear the noise from the line. The screen flickered with symbols and strange static sounds. Then a voice came through. Broken and weak, but clear enough. This is Captain Doran of the human fleet. Any survivors respond. Ryan felt a wave of relief. It was his side. He grabbed the mic. This is Sergeant Ryan of the Ground Patrol. I'm alive, with one alien survivor requesting medical attention. Static filled the air for a moment before the voice returned. Copy that, Sergeant. Hold your position. Extraction team will locate your beacon. Ryan turned off the mic and smiled at Alara. Looks like we're getting out of here. Alara looked unsure. Your people will come here? He nodded. Yes, they'll take us both to safety. She hesitated. Your commanders may not accept me. I am their enemy. Ryan looked serious. Not if I explain the truth. You're under my protection now. Alara lowered her eyes. You speak with such trust, but your people may not share it. He understood her fear, but he didn't want her to lose hope. We'll figure it out together, he said simply. They packed their few supplies and prepared to move toward a more open area for the rescue team to see them. The path ahead led through a stretch of burnt forest and broken machines. The sky was cloudy and wind carried the smell of ash. As they walked, Ryan kept glancing at the small device showing the signal's direction. It was faint but stable. We just need to reach the ridge ahead, he said. That's where they'll spot us. Alara followed closely, her legs still weak but healing. Your world must be harsh, she said, looking at the black trees around them. Ryan nodded. It can be, but we keep rebuilding. Humans always rebuild. Her lips curved slightly. That may be your greatest power. They continued walking until they reached the top of a small hill. From there, the valley below looked endless. Pieces of metal still shone in the sun, reminders of the war that had destroyed everything. Ryan set up a small beacon from his pack and activated it. The light flashed slowly, sending a signal skyward. Alara stood beside him, silent for a while. It is strange, she said at last. I thought this land would make me hate your kind. Instead, I find peace here. Ryan looked at her. Maybe peace starts when we stop seeing each other as enemies. She turned her face toward the sky. Perhaps, suddenly, the beacon light flickered. The signal grew unstable and a new sound echoed in the distance, a sharp hum of engines. Ryan raised his weapon instinctively and scanned the horizon. Drones again? Alara asked quietly. He listened carefully. The sound was louder now. No, he said. That's a ship, but I can't tell whose. Moments later, a shadow passed over them. A small craft descended, its hull marked with Vereen symbols. Alara's eyes widened. It is my people, she whispered. They found me. Ryan felt relief but also concern. Then you'll be safe. The ship landed softly a few meters away and two Vereen soldiers stepped out. Their armor was bright silver and their eyes glowed faintly blue. When they saw Alara, they saluted deeply. Princess Alara, one said in a firm voice. We feared you lost. The Emperor sent us to find you. Alara took a step forward but then stopped. This human saved my life. Treat him with respect. The Vereen soldiers glanced at Ryan, their expressions unreadable. He is human, one said coldly. He should not be near you. Ryan stayed calm. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just wanted to make sure she survived. Alara raised her chin. He stays unharmed. That is an order. The soldiers hesitated but then nodded. As you command, Princess. She turned to Ryan. You have done more than anyone of my kind would expect. I owe you my life. You don't owe me anything, he said. I only did what anyone should. Her eyes softened. Few would have chosen kindness over duty. You are different, Ryan. Before he could answer, the sound of another engine filled the air. A second ship appeared in the distance, flying low and fast. Ryan's heart jumped. It carried human markings. Your people, Alara said. Ryan nodded. Looks like both sides came for us. The Vereen soldiers raised their weapons and Ryan did the same, though his voice was steady. No one wants to fight. Let's keep it that way. The human ship landed opposite the Vereen craft. A few human soldiers stepped out, their uniforms dusty but clean. The leader, Captain Doran, called out, Sergeant Ryan, step away from the alien. Ryan held his ground.
Captain, she's not a threat.
She's the Vereen princess and she's under my protection. Doran frowned. You've been with her this whole time? Yes, Ryan said. And without her help, I'd be dead too. The air was tense. Both sides faced each other, ready but uncertain. Alara looked between them, her heart beating fast. She had seen enough war to know how quickly peace could break. Stop this, she said firmly. No more fighting. If you fire, you prove we have learned nothing. Her voice carried across the field, calm but powerful. The soldiers on both sides lowered their weapons slightly. Doran looked at Ryan, then at the princess. We can talk, he said slowly. The Vereen commander nodded. Agreed. Ryan let out a quiet breath of relief. The standoff was over for now. Alara turned to him. You see, Ryan, even in war, a single choice can change everything. He smiled faintly. You made that choice, princess. She shook her head. No. You did when you helped me. The two sides began setting up a small camp to rest and discuss peace. For the first time in years, human and Virine soldiers stood together without fear. As night came again, Alara looked at the stars above. The sky was wide and full of light. Ryan sat beside her, cleaning his weapon. "So, Princess," he said lightly, "what happens next?" She looked at him with a small smile. Maybe the beginning of something new. The firelight flickered between them, warm and calm. For the first time, both human and alien could see that peace was not a dream. It was a choice waiting to be made. And somewhere in the quiet night, hope took its first breath. The night after the meeting between humans and the Virine passed quietly. The stars above were brighter than ever, as if the sky itself watched over the strange gathering below. The fires from both camps burned side by side, their light reflecting on the faces of two species who had once sworn to destroy each other. Ryan sat near the edge of the camp, polishing his weapon. He did not expect to use it anymore, but old habits were hard to forget. Nearby, Alara spoke with her guards in low voices. They stood tall and alert, but their tone toward her had changed. They no longer looked at the human soldier with open anger. Instead, they studied him with quiet curiosity. Ryan glanced up when Alara approached. She no longer walked with a limp. Her royal robe was still torn, but she carried herself with the same pride as before. "You look better," Ryan said. "I feel stronger," she replied. "Your medicine helped more than I thought." He smiled a little. "Glad to hear that." For a few moments, they stood in silence, watching the two camps work side by side. The humans were setting up communication devices while the Virine repaired their ship. The air carried tension, but also something new. Respect. "Your captain wishes to speak with me," Alara said. "He believes a truce can be made." Ryan nodded. "Doran is cautious but fair. If anyone can start peace, it's him." She folded her hands behind her back. "My people may not agree easily. Pride runs deep in the Virine heart." "Humans aren't much different," Ryan replied. "But maybe pride can also build bridges if we use it right." Her eyes softened. "You speak like a leader." He shook his head. "I'm just a soldier who got lucky." Later that morning, Captain Doran and the Virine commander met in the middle of the camp. Ryan and Alara stood behind them as witnesses. The ground was still black from old fires, but now it felt like a clean slate. Doran spoke first. "This war has cost both sides too much. We have wounded, lost families, and empty cities. We can't keep fighting forever." The Virine commander answered with a steady voice. "You are right, Captain. The Virine Empire also bleeds. The Emperor wishes for peace, but trust must be earned." Alara stepped forward before either side could continue. Her voice carried calm strength. "Then let us begin earning it now. We have both seen the cost of hate. It is time to see the value of mercy." Both leaders looked at her, surprised by her tone. Ryan felt proud as he watched her speak. She was no longer the frightened princess from the battlefield. She stood tall, confident and wise. After a long silence, Doran extended his hand toward the Virine commander. "Let this be the start," he said. The commander hesitated, then took his hand. "Agreed." A quiet cheer rose from both sides. For the first time, human and Virine soldiers shared food, water, and tools. The air was filled with cautious smiles instead of anger. That night, Ryan and Alara sat near the same fire. The tension that once surrounded them was gone. The flames danced between them, warm and soft. "I did not believe peace was possible," Alara said, "but today proved me wrong." Ryan nodded. "It's only the beginning. The real work starts after the fighting stops." She looked at him thoughtfully. "You sound like a teacher." He laughed softly. "Maybe war makes teachers out of survivors." A gentle wind blew through the camp, carrying the smell of smoke and grass. The stars shimmered above like 1,000 small suns. Alara's gaze followed them. "When I was young," she said, "I used to think stars were gates to other worlds. I dreamed of traveling through them to see how other lives were lived. Now I realize they were all part of one great sky." Ryan looked up too. "Maybe that's what we are. Different stars under the same sky." Her smile was soft and real. "You humans have simple words but deep meanings." "Guess it's our way of hiding wisdom," he said lightly. They both laughed quietly. It was a strange sound in a place once filled with noise and pain. As the night grew colder, Ryan stood and threw another piece of wood onto the fire. "You should rest. Tomorrow will be long." Alara shook her head. "I want to see the dawn. I have seen too many nights. It's time to watch the light return." He sat back down beside her. "Then we'll wait together." The first rays of dawn painted the sky in shades of gold and pink. The light touched the wreckage, the camp, and the faces of those who had chosen peace. When the Vereen ship was finally ready to leave, Alara walked with Ryan to its ramp. Her guards waited nearby, ready to escort her home. "You're leaving," he said quietly. "Yes," she said. "My father waits for me. I must tell him what I've seen." Ryan nodded. "Tell him that humans are ready to talk and that we want to rebuild." She looked at him for a long moment. "And what should I tell him about you?" He smiled faintly. "Tell him there was one soldier who believed enemies could be friends." Alara's eyes glimmered. "I will tell him that and more." For a moment they stood without words. Around them both sides prepared for departure. The air was filled with the low hum of engines and quiet chatter. Before stepping onto her ship, Alara reached out and handed Ryan a small silver emblem marked with her family's crest. "This is a symbol of my house," she said. "If you ever come to my world, show this. It will keep you safe." Ryan looked at the emblem in his hand. "Thank you, Princess. Call me Alara," she said softly. "Titles are for rulers. Friends need only names," he nodded slowly. "Then thank you, Alara." She smiled, her eyes full of calm pride. "Farewell, Ryan of Earth. May your people find peace as we will try to do the same." With that, she turned and stepped aboard the Vereen ship. The door closed behind her and the engines began to glow. Ryan stepped back as the ship lifted into the sky, rising higher and higher until it disappeared among the clouds. He stood there for a long time, watching the sky where she had vanished. The battlefield around him was silent, but it no longer felt empty. The small silver emblem in his hand shone in the morning light, a reminder of what they had built together. Captain Doran walked up beside him. "She was different," he said. Ryan nodded. "So are we now." Doran looked at the horizon. "Command will want to hear what happened here. Maybe this is the first step." Ryan looked at the emblem again. "It's more than that. It's the first hope." The captain smiled slightly and walked away. Ryan stayed where he was, staring at the bright sky. The war had taken everything, but it had also given something unexpected. A bridge between two worlds, and somewhere far above. In her shining ship, Princess Alara looked out a window at the same blue planet and whispered, "Until we meet again, human soldier." The stars answered silently, carrying the promise of peace across the endless dark. Weeks passed after the day Princess Alara returned to her people. The battlefield where she and Ryan had met was now silent. The air was cleaner and the scars of war were slowly fading. Humans and Vereen both began rebuilding what they had lost. For the first time in many years, there was hope in the stars. Ryan was stationed at a new base near the border of human and Vereen space. It was not a place of battle anymore, but a place of peace talks. Scientists, soldiers, and diplomats from both sides worked together to design a treaty that could keep the two worlds connected. Ryan was not a high-ranking officer, but everyone respected him. They called him the man who walked with the princess. Every morning he stood on the edge of the base looking at the sky. He often thought about Alara and the time they had spent together. The emblem she had given him hung around his neck, hidden under his uniform. It reminded him that peace was possible, even between those who once hated each other. One quiet afternoon, as he checked the equipment outside the base, a familiar sound echoed above. The hum of a Vereen ship cut through the clouds. Ryan looked up and felt his heart beat faster. The ship was smaller than before, but it carried the royal mark. The craft landed gently on the field near the human base. A few soldiers gathered around, cautious but not afraid. When the ramp opened, a figure stepped out. Her silver skin shimmered in the sunlight, and her violet eyes searched the crowd until they found him. "Princess Alara," Ryan said softly, walking forward. She smiled warmly. "It is good to see you again, Ryan." The other soldiers stepped aside as the two met in the middle of the landing field. There was no fear this time, only quiet respect. Ryan saluted lightly. "We didn't expect a royal visit." "I came because the Emperor wanted to send a message of trust," she said. "And I wanted to see if what we built together still stands." Ryan smiled. "It does. Humans and Vereen are working side by side now. It's not perfect, but it's real." Alara looked around the base. Humans and Vereen walked past each other, trading supplies and ideas. Some worked on machines, others shared food and water. There was laughter too. Something she had never imagined hearing in a place once marked by war. "It feels strange," she said. "Once we feared you. Now we share our knowledge with you. Ryan looked at her gently. Strange maybe, but right. They walked together toward a nearby hill where they could see the wide valley below. The wind carried the smell of new grass. Flowers had begun to grow where ashes once lay. Alara knelt to touch one, her silver fingers brushing its soft petals. "My father was surprised when I told him what you did for me," she said. He could not believe a human soldier would risk his life for a Vereen princess. Ryan laughed quietly. "I didn't think about titles. You were just someone who needed help." "That is what I told him," she replied, and because of that he agreed to begin peace talks. "You changed more than you know." Ryan shook his head. "You were the one who spoke to both sides. You stood up for peace. I only helped you survive," Alara smiled. "Then we did it together." They stood quietly for a moment watching the horizon. The sun was bright and the air was filled with life again. "Do you plan to return home soon?" she asked. "Maybe after the treaty is signed," Ryan said. "But I'm not sure I have a home anymore. Everything's different now." She looked at him with understanding. "Home is not always a place. Sometimes it's the people we meet along the way." Her words made him think. He looked at her, realizing how much she had changed since their first meeting. She was still proud and royal, but now there was warmth in her voice and calm in her eyes. A small group of human officers approached carrying a message. "Sergeant Ryan once said, 'The first peace agreement is ready for signing. Both sides will witness it.'" Ryan looked at Alara. "I guess this is the moment." She nodded. "Let us go together." Inside the main hall, human and Vereen leaders stood around a large table. The air was filled with quiet excitement. Cameras recorded every moment. On one side stood Captain Doran, representing the human fleet. On the other side stood the Vereen ambassador and Princess Alara. Ryan took his place near them, standing tall but humble. Doran began to speak. "For years we fought over fear and misunderstanding. But today we choose something better. We choose peace." The ambassador added, "This treaty marks not an end, but a beginning. The future will not belong to one world or another. It will belong to both." When they finished speaking, Alara stepped forward and placed her hand on the treaty screen. Ryan followed, placing his hand beside hers. Together they confirmed the agreement. The room filled with applause. Alara turned to Ryan and smiled. "It is done," he nodded. "We made history." After the ceremony, the two walked outside again. The air was cool and the first stars were starting to appear. "You must return home now," Ryan said. "Your people will be waiting." "Yes," she said. "But before I leave, I have something for you." She reached into her robe and pulled out a small crystal sphere. It glowed softly with a pale blue light. "This is a memory stone," she explained. "It carries a message only you can hear. If ever you doubt yourself or this piece, listen to it." Ryan took it carefully. "Thank you, Alara. I'll keep it safe." She looked into his eyes. "No matter what happens, remember that you changed my world. You showed me the strength of kindness," he smiled. "And you showed me the meaning of peace." A soft wind passed between them. Neither spoke for a moment. Words were not needed. The sky was wide and full of stars again. When her ship lifted off later that evening, Ryan stood outside the base watching it rise. The glowing engines painted the sky with silver light. He held the small crystal in his hand, feeling its faint warmth. Later in his quarters, he placed the stone on the table and activated it. A gentle light filled the room and Alara's voice spoke softly. "Ryan, if you hear this, then know that peace still lives. Whatever happens next, do not forget what we built together. You once told me humans rebuild, so rebuild again and again until all wars are only memories. Farewell, my friend." The light faded, but her words stayed in his heart. Ryan looked out the window at the stars. They no longer looked distant or cold. Somewhere out there was a world that had once been his enemy, now linked by hope. He touched the silver emblem on his neck and whispered, "We will keep our promise. Alara." The wind outside carried the sound of peace through the night, and so the story of the human soldier and the alien princess became a legend among both worlds. It was told for generations as the day when courage, trust, and friendship ended a war. In every version of the tale, there was one shared truth. Peace began not with armies, but with two hearts that chose to understand each other. And under the endless stars, that promise lived on forever.